Give us 30 minutes each week to discover the trends that are shaping the future of retirement with That Annuity Show. We bring you conversations with industry leaders who are revolutionizing financial products, technology, and distribution channels. Now, here's your host, Paul Tyler.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of That Annuity Show. Bruno, good to see you.
Good to see you, Paul, as always.
Yeah, I think we're getting some of your single-digit weather here in the New York area in a week or in a few days or so.
We're below we're in the negatives, so
negatives. Okay, so not quite as cold. Well, anyway, we're here in Greenwich today. We have a returning co-host, Mr. Michael Celi, who's the Chief Product Officer of Zinnia. Michael, glad to have you back.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be on. Very excited about the today's panel.
Yeah. Well, anyway, great show today. We're going to be talking about the future of annuities, a passion of ours. And we're joined by none other than Katherine Dease, Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at the Insured Retirement Institute, known to a lot of us just simply as IRI. It's a great institution, great conference. Hope you're going to the conference in a couple of months. It's a great event. And with over 20 years of experience in the financial industry, Katherine has really made incredible inroads into, I would say, jumpstarting the digital transformation of the annuity space. And she's the architect behind IRI's Digital First for Annuities initiative. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Well, thanks. And just for people who may not be familiar with either the initiative or IRI, can you just give an example? Tell us A, who you are, and B, what exactly are you doing at this organization called IRI?
Yeah, well, so if our paths have crossed in the past, you know that I like things that I could be passionate about, and in this particular case, IRI, the Insured Retirement Institute, is trying to modernize the annuity space. How you can't get much more passionate about something that I am personally. We're all invested in our own retirement. How can we have a dignified retirement for every American? And that's what IRI really strives to do. And then my role from the technology and innovation side is how do we enable the industry to do that? And so I'm extremely passionate about this.
Yeah, well, I remember meeting you along the way over. I don't know. I think we met maybe 10 years ago. Could have been at one of the other companies you work for. And first of all, it's rare that you actually meet somebody who gets excited about annuity applications. And I think what you did at some prior companies was exceptional in terms of driving their product. But I think what you're doing there at IRA is actually having a real impact on the business. And can you just kind of tell us what is the Digital First Initiative? How did you get started? What are the goals? Where are you at this point in the journey?
Sure, this is a great question. So the Digital First Initiative came about through the need to enable the industry to create superior experiences. And the reality is an experience is going to be different for every single firm who envisions it. But it's crucial for our industry's long-term viability that we have experiences that meet the demands of the consumer and the financial professional. And early in 2023, not knowing yet, like how do you modernize the annuity industry? What does that mean exactly? When I came on board, I spent probably 8 months with our members talking to them about what we needed to do as an industry. We did surveys, we did journey mapping. All of this is part of IRI's documentation on our website. And we are 100% member driven. And so trying to evaluate where our members want to go. They want to create digital experiences for their consumer and financial professional. They want to meet the financial professional in the tools that they're using. And our surveys showed that if we could do that, 90% of financial professionals would transact more annuities. And so that really was a pointer toward and the birth of the Digital First Initiative. Let's enable these superior experiences.
So, Katherine, When we talk about digital first, can you maybe chat a bit about what are those big impediments in the industry? What are those, whether it's legacy precedent, whether it's industry norms, what's going to prevent digital first from the momentum it needs to go where the industry hasn't gone before?
Also, great question. Thank you, Michael. So let me address this in two ways. The first is, so if we want to enable digital first experiences, we had to also look at why we haven't been successful at doing that in the past. And the reality is the industry has a data problem. And that data problem, it prevents innovation. A lot of data is siloed within an individual data owner, right? So you might have a platform who has a particular very important piece of data. And if another solution provider or a carrier or a distributor needs access to that data, they had to go build a one-off integration. Well, that was the problem. You had a lot of one-off integrations, and there was no standard build it one time, use it many across the industry. There was no alignment across the industry, no rules of engagement, so to speak. And that meant that an innovator had to go build things one off, and that becomes very costly. So we have a data problem, innovation is difficult, and it's costly. And every layer of cost means that you have to really evaluate, does this make good sense? And what ended up happening is annuities, we're not getting as much because we were not aligning. It was too costly, and we weren't making the innovation. So essentially what we are doing when we talk about how do we enable digital first experiences is we're creating standards across the industry that enable fast, agile development. Why we haven't done it before is because we didn't recognize there were starts and stops across throughout the industry. Individual vendor might go down the path, an individual carrier might go down the path of digital first. But until we came together as an industry, we are never going to get to a build once, use many model. And now we are.
That's really interesting. And if we take a step back, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the IRI is an industry trade association with many of the high level people in every single organization, and those. So my question is, like, what are some of the driving forces behind every single move that is made? You mentioned data. Obviously, that's that's an important one. But ultimately, you mentioned also the surveys. Who are you targeting through those surveys? Is it the end user, the individual? Is it financial advisors and agents? Is it the organization themselves? What is the number one angle? The number one lens through which you look at things.
You guys are coming with some great questions. So the reality is, the answer is there is not a single lens. And this is why IRI is so uniquely positioned to have led this effort. We have access to the financial professionals. We did surveys directly to the financial professionals. We did surveys to the executives at our distribution and our carriers, both at the top transacting firms. And if you look at LIMR statistics, you know who those are, as well as newer channels that are coming into the space. We also have the asset managers, and so we were able to take a lens across the entire market and evaluate what are the experiences that we're trying to strive toward. So I did say there is a data problem, but we're not leading with the data. We're leading with the experiences. What is it you're trying to solve for? What are you trying to build? What are you trying to enable at your firm? And the answer with digital first, it's very business. It's driven. The business drivers for digital first are different depending on the firm that you're talking to. In some cases, if they're a brokerage firm, they might be interested in make sure the annuity shows up consistently in my brokerage account. But we also have new channels. They aren't new to the space, but they are new to IRIs, the IMO and the RIA space. And they are doing different things with annuity. And I need the annuity to show up alongside my traditional investment with mutual funds and alternate investments. And that's another survey we did, right? 83% of financial professionals are working in these tools, and they need the annuity to show up. So they're very much experience driven.
Maybe you could talk to us just a little bit more about like, what's the fine line between, the back end machinations of buying an annuity or getting information, getting policyholder values versus experience. Is experience, code word for the user, the UX, on your website or your mobile phone, or is it deeper than that?
It's all in how it's defined, which I guess is your point. When we talk about an ideal or a superior experience and the annuity showing up, it could be as something as UX related as, I want to see the value of my annuity in my portfolio alongside my mutual funds and my other traditional investments. But it could also be that I need the data real time, and I don't want to wait 2 weeks to know if my policy was issued. So the experience, it covers everything from product research to issue, the status of what's been issued, the management after or post issue, the exit phase, and having transparency of the annuity as part of the account, having data when I need it, where I need it, and up to date and accurate. So imagine, because this isn't hard to imagine, I'm a financial professional, and with one click of a button, I can purchase a CD. Mutual funds are now T+1. Annuities, not so much, but they could be. And that's what Digital First is trying to enable. Taking the could be and putting it into reality.
That's really interesting. And I think there's a lot of innovation, a lot of push to display things in a different way. And I know the brokerage account and the brokers have put up not only kind of an account value or asset value, but an income generator value in their own future way. So you can have a view of not just what your assets are worth, but what your assets are generating in terms of income. And we all know that annuities have a hedge here, and they have a powerful thing. There's a powerful thing that annuities can do to provide income at a time that is well needed when people don't have an income anymore. So my question is, has there been any surveys or any development on that aspect that annuities, at the very beginning, like the very number one purpose of annuities is income. So has there been any development or any research or surveys on that front?
There has. So we did 2 surveys specifically targeting the financial professional, and they were talking about how are you positioning a holistic financial plan, one for the financial professionals that are meaningfully transacting and seeking out an annuity. Like, why are you putting an annuity in front of the consumer, and just really understanding what's driving that. But we also did it to the non-client, right? If you're a product person, you know what I mean there, meaning our non-annuity financial professionals. They don't meaningfully transact annuities. They maybe don't even really understand them. Maybe they do, but they are not positioning them in front of the consumer. And we did a survey targeted at them. And then we're looking at the results juxtaposed to evaluate what does that mean, and what does IRI and the industry, what can we do to help help make annuities get a seat at the table. And what came out of those surveys is a group that we call holistic financial planning. And one of the things that came out of that is working with the top 3 financial planning tools across the market to get exactly what you said, Bruce, to show the value of the annuity inside of the tool so you can see the income stream, how much of that income is secured and protected. And also get annuities a seat at the table so that they can see the value of the annuity. And so we created IRI baseline values last year so that those non-annuity financial professionals didn't have as much knowledge barrier to even include them into the modeling. This coming year, that will expand to platforms, your investment management platforms and your wealth management platforms. They've also been involved in this digital first initiative that are really focusing on the same thing. Let's meet the financial professional and their tools and provide what they need. They need to be able to clearly see that income stream. They need to be able to clearly understand what the accumulation protection is providing if that's what they purchased it for. And so the data needs to be there, and it needs to be there consistently. And that ties directly back to digital first. Because if we're going to create a standard that this is the data that needs to be delivered and how it can be delivered, and do it in a way that carriers can build it one time and use it across the industry, we will increase innovation. We will increase more of those platforms who've said it's too costly for me to go and do a one-off integration with every carrier because their RILAs are done differently. But if we have a standard, a digital first standard that they can build one time and implement it across all the carriers, they want annuities to show up there because Bruce said it so well. Annuities have a hedge there. We have an advantage that no other product can provide, but if it's too costly, they aren't going to do it. So let's remove that barrier. That's what digital first is talking about doing.
Michael, I mean, that almost sounds like real-time in-force income illustrations. Are you ready to deliver that?
We are. And what I was going to get to is I don't think you can challenge, right, Katherine, the goal, the initiative here is a great one. It's hard to say that it's not correct. Now, what I see as the hardest part of the job that not many have taken on would be, historically in an industry where carriers are differentiating on product, and the vendor community is competing in this regard on what the experience looks like. Katherine, how do you and the IRI get what are historically competitors to coalesce around this initiative allows all boats to rise versus not, right? So can you speak to that?
Sure. That was the first hurdle. And that's always going to be something that we are constantly working toward. But I can tell you the industry has finally recognized that it's ready for a change. What's the definition of insanity? Keep doing it exactly the same way and expect a different result. And because we now have an initiative that we are driving with adoption stats and a dashboard, and we are really pushing this build once, use many model, it's to the innovator's benefit. If we can make it where the data is no longer siloed, so we're increasing the data boundaries, increasing building out ecosystems where if you want to innovate something, if you have a vision, a superior experience, if there's an easy way for you to go and get the data and then create the innovation, we don't want the industry to stand in your way. And that's where, I ran the product, I was the chief product officer at Insurance Technologies. And, we would have these great visions, but you had to go recruit for the data. And what we're trying to do is let's stop, competing on data. Let's compete on the experience as an industry and make it where the data is accessible so that you can connect the experiences and build those ecosystems. And to answer your question, the solution providers are seeing the benefit in that. They are recognizing if I don't have to go recruit for an individual one-off API and the industry has a standard, it's in effect a network effect. It's instead of it individually being participants that increase the value, it's the increase in the ecosystem. When everyone is involved, we have shared data formats, APIs, communication protocols. The collaboration and innovation is easier, and it benefits all users in the entire industry. So we think the answer to all the industry problems is get on a standard. It's what the health exchange did in 2010, and that's what we're trying to implement on the annuity side.
Yeah, well, I guess if I keep going with other people to work with, regulators, and I know people say please no, but I've had a couple of conversations with regulators. So I said, you're asking all of us to fill out these applications and show us show you and get our PDF approved. What if you actually required an API? And of course, Katherine, the response is like, what are you talking about? Where do the regulators fit today in your program, and where should they, if they are or if they're not involved?
Yeah, also a great question. So this is a good example of why IRI is so uniquely positioned for this. In addition to having all the value chain, we also have a very, very strong, probably the strongest part of IRI is our advocacy side. We have connections with the regulators. We have a compliance and regulatory group, as well as the legislative side. And what Digital First is doing, it could, and I say could because regulation, it's a whole nother issue. But what we are trying to do is work with our counterparts internally to say, how can we eliminate some of the regulatory barriers if we provided better information? And so I can't make any promises on that front, right? That because regulation is regulation, but I can say that we are making strides, and where our members are telling us this is where they want us to focus. Look at what happened with DOL this last year. Our IRI has been a leader in that, and Secure Act. I suspect in 2025 and in 2026 that we'll see more digital first initiatives having a stronger connection to the regulatory side and the compliance side as we are able to provide more data that answer the value of the annuity and provide the answers to, is this in the best interest of the consumer? And did you do your due diligence? We might be able to get away from some of the paper. But if not, my role is to make sure that we make it as seamless and as transactional and digital as possible, because you can fill a form out with all that digital data and e-sign it, and at least it's leaps and bounds better. And we do that today. That part the industry's been doing, right? Let's fill the data out, e-sign it. Everything else we want to do is enable those annuities to support whatever the experiences are that our industry decides they want.
Right. So as you look at getting past, you got off the ground, get past those initial barriers, to your point on getting a coalition, getting in front of regulators and making sure they're not a barrier. And once the pace picks up, Katherine, when you look at success for the project, for the initiative, personally, what do you think is going to be meaningful for you to see out of this as it matures over time?
Sure. Yeah, we have very clear objectives and very clear success measures that we track in our dashboard. And, we're going to want to see the financial professional satisfaction go up. So at some point, we'll repeat the surveys that we've done. I'm sure that will be part of it. Otherwise, how do we know? We're looking as we implement things like activity status and paperless transfers, that the cycle time for paperless transfers, it's supposed to 18-day average down to 2. We're going to be monitoring, did we hit it? And if not, what do we need to do? Activity status provides the transparency so that the call centers, you don't have to pick up the phone. As a financial professional, that was the number one friction point. So one, you'll see the financial professional satisfaction go up, but you also should see call center volumes either go down or the length of time that they're on the call go down, because we're providing as an industry the transparency on the status of what was submitted. But that's just the starting point, because as digital first takes traction, each individual standards that's built out has its own success measure. So the ones that are in place that we're building right now are training update. We're doing that because as an industry, they need real-time status of training, because financial professionals took their training 3 days ago or a week ago, and they can't transact business because the status hasn't been updated. It's really more like a 48-hour lag, but that's frustrating to a financial professional. So if we can provide them updates real time to the training from the solutions that they're getting the training from, then that's going to create a better financial professional satisfaction. It's also going to reduce NIGOs. So where I'm going with this is every standard that we implement has its own measures of success, and we will be tracking them, and we do track them in our dashboard, which is available to all of our members.
Well, if you could speed up 1035 exchanges, wow. I think people will give all of you metal, but it sounds like you're actually making good headway, which is terrific. Training, another one. Oh, Catherine, I mean, I've felt the pain on some of these projects trying to figure out if somebody's actually eligible to take sell a product or not. Oh, it's hard. So those are painful points in selling. Kind of where Michael was headed. But what other sort of big opportunities down the road could this open up? We've had a lot of people on the show talking about opening up the RIA market, not sort of the I would say kind of the RAs who look a little more like CFPs. I think that's one market that's been tough to crack. The other one, we've spent a lot of time talking about is the in-plan annuity space. And do you have a roadmap that sort of takes the organization down, opening some of those doors for us?
Yes, and not quite, and I'll explain. So as I noted earlier, right, we are member driven. And right now our members have said, let's stay focused on the retail space. And so I am mainly focused on how do we get the annuities show up where financial professionals are doing their business. That could be the RIA side though, even though that's considered right, independent. But as far as in-plan annuities, they're like this, keep your eye on how we could potentially, as digital first, help with that, because they're going to have the same problem that the space that we're in has if they don't think of things in a standard. And what we're defining is applicable in that side. However, I am not running working groups. We're not running conversations yet because we're member driven. Doesn't mean that could change. That could change. Who knows? As far as the RIA space and the independent side, they are involved in the Digital First Initiative. And this is when we talked about earlier that there's different business drivers in Digital First, the RIA and the IMO and other channels, other tools are a big business driver of Digital First, because they are trying to do things differently with an annuity when annuities are about this much of their revenue. So if it's costly and they have to do one-off integrations and they are less than 5% of their business, do you think they're going to do it? No. But if we create a standard where here's how we can report FIAs, RILAs, fixed products, etc., and it always will look that way across all of your carriers, they can build receptacles inside of their tools to have the annuity show up in a consistent way. That's all they're waiting for. And they are very excited. And I'm saying that globally, but the ones that we've worked with are very excited about the work we're doing because it will make it easier for them to do what they want. And we will open up the floodgates. So when I talked about Digital First being an accelerant to innovation, that's what we mean, right? We want to get out of the way. We want to enable those experiences for every channel that exists and those that don't exist yet.
So what do you and the IRI need from the vendor community to help build momentum here, right, and drive this industry at a pace that it hasn't in the past? What do you what's your call out? What's your call to action, so to speak?
Our call to action is get involved, participate, be thinking about not competing on the data, but on the experience. And that doesn't mean that let's just use the API of data that maybe Zinnia has, right? Since I'm on with Zinnia, you could charge for an API or you can do whatever you need to. But if you make the data available in a standard way, now those platforms can get access to it. And what has historically happened in the annuity space is we've almost, through every step of the process, annuities have been very unique. Every product is unique. We're not going to change the products. We're not asking for carriers to refile their products. We're not asking them for changing. But if we could start speaking the same language and then exposing and authorizing the data out and allowing people to access that data in a more real-time manner, in a more modern method, then we will, in effect, be creating those ecosystems. And that's what I challenge the solution providers in the industry, because you guys have the data. And if we can make that data available where it can connect to your fellow counterparts' data, how powerful could that be for the industry if they can build and connect the experiences, because they now have access to create the ecosystem themselves? That IRI is bound by antitrust. So I'm just going to say, right, we're not setting people up as winners and losers. Every company can create an API and do what they want, charge what they want for that. That's their own prerogative. But if we can start talking the same language and making the connections where the experiences can be built, we will expedite innovation. So the answer, Michael, is as you guys start thinking about how do we make this data available, IRI and our member firms would probably want to sit at the table and figure out how do we create a standard to make that data universal, so it can talk to other solutions in the industry.
All right. Well, this has been great. We're right at the sort of the end of the time. Bruno, do you have any last thoughts or questions for Katherine?
So many, but I think there's a powerful message here, and I think there's a lot of progress that's being made. I remember like 10 years back, innovation was changing a product feature. Now we're talking about an industry that's mobilizing itself and getting into kind of a collective message, a clear approach, as you mentioned, Katherine, earlier. I think this is great. There's so many common themes that we've had through our episode. A comprehensive plan. It's not just about your mutual funds. It's not just about your CDs. It's not just about your annuities. It's about the package, and of course the experience itself. And one last one that I'm really close to is that you came back many times, Katherine, on making transactions more efficient through data, and I think that's extremely powerful because that opens up a wide, a bigger pool of potential transactions, potentially smaller ones that are starting to make more economical sense. So I think I think that the industry looks can see a bright future with a lot of improvement. Still a lot of work ahead, no doubts there. But I think it's great. So thanks for coming and congrats on all the progress.
Thank you so much. So I would be remiss if I didn't say, right, everything IRI is able to achieve is because of our members. And, DTCC has been heavily involved in the creation of many of these standards, implementing them, making it available. So there's optionality, whether you go through the DTCC or direct. We've got many carriers and distributors that are leading the way because they see a future where annuities can be transacted simply, easily, and alongside their traditional investments. So I just end by saying, one, thank you. Thank you to the entire industry. Thank you to firms like Zinnia and other solution providers that are coming to IRI to say, hey, we want to create a framework to support an experience in a standard way. And so I reiterate, encourage firms to do that. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, yeah. And Katherine, thank you. And I know your conference is coming up the end of March. And I'm presuming if people show up, they'll actually learn more about what you're doing. Is that fair to say?
That's very fair to say. We've got some really exciting things that are happening in the next couple of months. March 26th to the 28th is the conference. We are already close to 500 participants. Last year we had 720 roughly. I think we'll break that this year, so your peers will be there. I encourage you guys to sign up if you are not already.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, listen, thanks so much for your time. And we'd like to thank our listeners. Leave reviews, please. And better yet, share this episode with people at your companies or the carriers you work for so they can be active participants in this effort. So thanks, Katherine.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information or listen to more episodes at thatannuityshow.com. Nassau Financial Group is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We build products that help protect people's savings and are dedicated to providing you with best-in-class service. We seek to keep things simple and have your back in the years to come. Nassau is headquartered in Hartford, Connecticut. Learn more at nfg.com.
Zinnia, an Eldridge Industries business, simplifies insurance. It delivers comprehensive solutions for the industry's most critical needs and creates the modern rails of the insurance industry. To learn more about Zinnia, please visit zinnia.com.